Hey everybody, welcome to the 16th edition of Drive-Thru Review. Today we're going to be talking about Hansa Teutonica. It's the latest abstract in the gift series from Z-Man Games. It's a abstract cube placement game. Obviously, I'm just joking. I only joke because I like the game. I actually love the game. And it is a game that is not flown under the radar. I think it's in the top 50 on Board Game Geek. I usually try to review games that are under the radar or old or something. But I thought I would review this. I'm having a lot of fun with this game. I've had it for a while now, and I really think this could be a gateway game almost. Uh, it's probably like a step above a gateway, and I think it's a little bit intimidating. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it looks really boring, I guess. But I wasn't sure about it. I got it for Christmas, and I've been playing it kind of off and on since then. It's May now, so about 5 or 6 months, and I really enjoy it. I actually enjoy it with two players, up to five. I haven't actually played it with five, only two, three, and four. But yeah, just four. Sorry. And I thought I remembered a five-player game, but no, that was four. So let me get into how it works a little bit, and then go from there. Okay, so how do you play Hansa Teutonica? Well, you're going to start the game off with a bunch of cubes. Everybody's going to get a whole bunch of cubes. You're also going to get a handful of these little discs, but you're mostly going to have the little blocks. So what you're going to try to do here is, you can see there's a bunch of routes on this board between cities. And what you're trying to do is control all of these trade routes between the different cities with your color. Now to start the game, you're going to have two actions with each turn. And so one thing you can do is place a cube, and that counts as an action. So let's say I could do this on my turn and place 2 cubes, and my turn would be done. Another thing you can do is actually move cubes. And for one action, you can actually move 2 cubes at the start of the game. And so I can take one action here. Let's say I wanted to move 2 there. That's one action. And my second action could be to place a cube. Or if I wanted to, I could place a disc. And I'll explain why you might use a disc instead a little bit later. Another action that you could do is actually claim the route. Now that actually costs you an action. So if I had 3 cubes here, let's say I had 2 on my last turn, and then I put 1 down there for my first action, my second action could be to claim the route. So I would consume all of the cubes there that were on the route, and I could use one of them to place as what's called an office in one of the cities. So that would basically give me, at this time, control of that city. So that anytime anybody else completed a route connected to that city, I would get a point for it. A few of the cities will actually give you a point for establishing an office in them right away. Most cities don't automatically give you a point. You've got to establish an office and then have other people connect to it. Certain cities are going to be more valuable, so having an office in them early in the game is going to provide you with a lot of points during the game, as a lot of people will want to, and basically be forced to connect to that city based on, if they want to win the game, they better be connecting to that city at some point or other. Now another thing you might do is, let's say yellow had placed 2 cubes here for his turn, but red really wants to claim this route, but there's only one spot in there. So what red wants to do is to knock yellow out of the way. So what red could do is, if he wanted to, he could displace a yellow cube for one of his actions. So red would place it normally as he would for an action, but what's going to happen is he's going to have to turn in and throw away, for the time being, one of his cubes. So he's going to lose a cube for a little while. What's going to happen to yellow is yellow will gain a free cube, and this cube of his that was removed is not lost. He can actually move it to any adjacent route. So he could move it to this route here, because it's connected to the same city here, or this route, or even this route that's on the bottom there, or even a route up here. So what he can do is he can take these 2 cubes, and let's say he wants to just move it over here. So red's gotten in here because he wants to get in there, but yellow has actually gained, maybe, depending on which route we're talking about, a little bit of an advantage here. Now there's one other aspect to this displacement. So let's say instead yellow had a disc and a cube. Now the discs, for all intents and purposes, are just stronger versions of the cubes. Okay? Now, they do a couple of things, but as far as the displacement goes, if red were to go in and try and displace this disc, he's got to now throw away 2 cubes. Okay, so he's got to hurt him a little bit more. So he better really want that spot. Yellow now will get 2 cubes. And he can take that disc and move that just like the rules before and move it to another route. So you can see yellow went in here, and now he's got a fully connected route here, so he could probably claim this on his next turn if he really wanted to. Or take and move these over to this route if he really wanted this route. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy. We're making routes and we're making offices so that other people connect to it. You know, we've got to get a point sort of as their fee for using our city. That's real basic. Now, there's a few cities on here. I think there's 6, 7 cities, depending how you look at it, that have special effects to them. So let's take a look at a city here. And this is the city here that will be most contested in the early part of the game. Now, there's 2 possible things you can do when you claim a route to a city. So let's do this one here. So let's say yellow has this route here, and he could claim it as before. So he could discard 2 of the cubes that were on there and put 1 in there to create an office. Or he has the choice of activating the city's special ability. You can see here this city has a special ability here. The yellow flag corresponds with the little yellow banner there. There's a couple other cities here. This one's right next to it here. This is a different ability here. So if I had connected to this city, and this one actually costs 4 discs or things to connect. So if I connected here, I could place one of these in there and get an office and a free point. You can see that has a little victory point marker. Or I can activate this special ability. Well, what are all these special abilities about? Let's find out. Okay, so what are these abilities that I'm talking about? Well, every player is going to have in front of them an identical player board, and it looks sort of like a table. This is going to show you what capabilities you're capable of to start the game. Now you can see there's a few different tracks here. There's a track with keys, these envelopes, these little bags, this book, and this scroll. And everything but the first item in each of these categories is covered up by a cube or a disc. So this shows you what you're capable of to start the game. Now the way that you upgrade these is, remember what I was showing you before, and I connected a route with 3 cubes to the city that had the action track, which is these envelopes here. And instead of discarding the cubes and placing an office, you have the option to upgrade an ability. So what happens if I choose to do that, I would pull a cube off of this track and put that in my supply, and now I've uncovered this 3. So now after I've done that, every time in my turn, I have 3 actions on my turn. So let me just give you a breakdown of all these different abilities. We already talked about the action track. So every time I connect to that city, I've got the option of pulling a cube off of these. So I can get all the way up to 5 actions per turn. 5 actions is probably overkill, but you definitely want to get 3 or maybe even 4 actions per turn. Definitely 3, because if people will outgun you on the actions early in the game, you're just going to get outgunned and you're never going to catch up. So let's look at the rest of these abilities. Let's start with the key. Now the key is showing you how many points you're going to get at the end of the game per city that is connected in your biggest network. So you can see at the start of the game you're going to get 1 point per city. If you've uncovered all of these, by the end of the game, you're going to get 4 points per city. And remember, the way that you upgrade these is you connect to the city that gives you the key ability, let's call it, and then instead of building an office, you choose to pull one of these and put it in your supply. This ability here, called the privilege ability, lets you place offices in the different colored buildings on each of the cities. And if you look back before in our video, there was a lot of different colors. So initially, you can only create an office in a white building. You have to unlock this to be able to place cubes or discs into greater colored buildings. Now, And that's pretty important. I'll get into that a little bit later. Now the book lets you move a certain amount of cubes for one action. So like I said, at the start of the game, you can only move 2 cubes, or a cube and a disc or whatever, for one action. If you unlock these, you can start to move more. So you can move up to 5 items on the board at one time for one action. This also has the bonus of giving you discs. And we already know that discs are valuable because they're a lot harder to displace. So the only way that you can add new discs to your collection, everybody starts with 1 disc to start the game, is to upgrade this ability. Now the last ability that you can upgrade is these little bags. And this is a part of the game I haven't talked about. So there's going to be basically 2 sets of cubes and discs. There's going to be one central bank that everybody pulls from, and everybody's going to start with their own personal supply. So depending on which player you are in the turn order, you're going to start with more or less cubes. The first player gets some less, and then the last player gets a couple extras because they're going last. So if we look at it this way, I've got my personal supply to start on the left. I've got 5 cubes and a disc. Well, for one of my actions, I can go and actually acquire or purchase this number of cubes. So I can get 3 new cubes, and it could be cubes or discs. It's just anything out of the bank of your color. So that would be one of my actions to get that. So you can see as you're placing the cubes on a route, you're going to get less and less cubes to deal with. So you're going to be forced to buy, so that when you do go to buy a cube, you want to be able to buy more cubes at once. Starting off with 3, that's not so bad. But then 5, 7, and then this last one over here, you can just pull all the cubes over that are in your bank into your personal supply. Alright, so I've got the board zoomed out here to give you sort of an overall picture of it. There's a couple other little things to do. You can build a route and get an office, build a route and then upgrade your abilities. You can see here's the action ability, the key ability, which gives you more points for connected route. The bag ability, which lets you get more cubes out of the bank. This is the privilege ability that lets you put cubes and stuff in different offices. So you can see this is the main city here. It's got a white, orange, pink, and black office. This one lets you get the extra discs and move more items for the move action. So these are all kind of spread out. And so you kind of get some flurries of activity going on in different areas. If you build a route from Arnheim to Stendal, then you'll get a certain number of points to be the first person that did it, and I think the second person gets a little bit less points to do that. This little area down here is really interesting, called Colleen. If you build this route here, if you have a disc in that route, because you have to take one of the items that was in your route to do an office or whatever, you can take and leave that disc there permanently. At the end of the game, you're going to get 7, 8, 9, 10, and or 11 points. So you could actually get a lot of points there at the end of the game. But you do lose one of your powerful discs to do that. So let's say Yellow was in here in that office. So he basically controls this city and any of these routes going into it. So anytime somebody builds a route there, he's going to get a point. Now if Red comes along, he puts his disc in here. He's now going to control this city, and Yellow's going to get no points. So basically, the way that works out is whoever has the most, items in a city is going to control it. So in this case, up there, Yellow's got 2 and Red's got 1. So Yellow would control that one. However, if it's tied, whoever has the rightmost office breaks the tie. So in this case, Red would win because he's got the rightmost office. So he's going to have control over that city, and he's going to get all the points. Another aspect of the game are these little discs here. And there's several different kinds. I'm not going to go into all of these. A lot of them are one-time abilities that are very beneficial. And if you look out here, you can see these little tiny cities right there. And you're going to put some on the tiny cities, which I can never find. There's one there. There's another one, which is over here. So if you connect to this route here, not only do you have the choice of placing in an office, or if there happens to be a ability to upgrade the ability, you will always get this little guy here. and it actually looks sort of like a little plate of food. And so you get that, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Okay, so this guy will give you +4 actions. And you can use this. It doesn't cost you an action to use these discs. So you could do your 2 actions and then use the disc and get another 4 actions. Oh, there's a bunch of other ones. Some let you move, stuff on the board, replace stuff on the board. Some will actually let you build an office off to the left here that doesn't exist. So if you were trying to, if red came here and horned in on yellow, he could tack on another office there, so he'd get control back. Not only do they allow you these one-time use abilities, but you score these at the end of the game. So for like 1, you get 1 point, and 10, you get 14 points or something. And so they're good to get for extra bonus points at the end of the game. And one cool thing about this is when you consume one of these, you get one, and then you draw another one from the stack over here, and you place it on any route that doesn't have a worker on it. So there's a lot of activity going on the board. I mean, people are, if you're getting screwed out of the action spot because everybody's going there, you can jump over here and you can try to grab one of these tokens, or you can go do some other action or start building a little network or doing whatever. And there's just a lot going on. And I think the boringness of the board, I guess, and the real Yuri dry flavor is going to just turn a lot of people off. But if you just dive in and you go for this game and you just screw it, just start putting stuff down and letting the game work itself out, I think you're going to have a lot of fun. It's very interactive. There's a lot of back and forth. You put stuff down as a dare and say, go ahead and knock my cubes out. I'm going to get to put more cubes out here. And I'll have more cubes on the board than you, and then I'm going to move them all over here with my move ability. All right, that's a little bit more long-winded than I normally like to be. This is one of those games where if you explain one thing, you kind of have to explain another and then another for it to fit together and make sense. Like I said at the beginning, I think it could be a gateway game. I think, I've used it with my folks and stuff, and they really like Thurns and Taxis. And but however, I wouldn't play it with my 10-year-old, who likes to Ticket to Ride and that kind of thing. But it's really kind of on that cusp, I think. It's a game where you can't just pussyfoot around and kind of do your own thing, though. You got to get in there and really kind of start slapping your cubes around and knocking people over and getting them out of your way, on the board, not in real life, but the interaction is just awesome. It's just highly interactive. Your abilities and everything explodes. You get all these different options as the game starts cruising along. The scoring is a little bit of it's not a head. A gamer is going to be fine, but other people are going to just be like, what? You score this, and you score control the cities and all my dishes of food and blah, blah, blah. So that's going to be a little bit of some overhead, but it's not really that bad. Once you play the game once, it works fine. Anyway, hope you enjoy the game. If you haven't bought it already, then I think you should go get it. Thanks.